Comic fam, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Comic Tom.
And I am your co-host, Golden Age Guru.
That's right. We're here today to talk to you about comic books because we do this every single week. Hit the subscribe button. And if you find any value to this video, it'd be awesome if you hit the like button. We recently accomplished something pretty fun over this past month, and I wanted to make sure that the community here knows about it. And I'm talking about our team up with our good friends over at Variant Comics here on YouTube.
I don't know how much time researching and putting this together, but we just put together a pretty darn good breakdown of the Golden Age. Now, it isn't going to be like so over in-depth that you're not going to be able to follow. It's a really solid introduction to the Golden Age with the great information, great little cuts and bits, and just stuff you gotta watch this video. I'm telling you, if you have any interest in the Golden Age whatsoever, go check it out.
That's right. I put the link to the video we provided Variant, and that was posted on their YouTube channel in the description below. Big shout out and thank you to Eris, to Tim, and the whole Variant Nation. And we have a packed show today, Jeff. We're chatting about some year-end sales, some shocking art and comic sales. We have an update to the Overstreet for 2020. What's going on?
I just submitted my article literally yesterday. So I'm just going to break that down for you early because these articles that all of us put out as Overstreet advisors, you won't get to see till July of next year when the guide comes out. So I'm just going to give it to you now so you have a fresh start in 2020 to start looking for these books that you should be looking for early.
That's right. We have two different Overstreet advisors on this show, Jeff, as well as Russ, the comic sensei. So we'll definitely get him in here to dish on what he wrote and submitted to Overstreet so the community can get an advance on what they can expect in the book. Months ahead. Pretty cool stuff.
Sensei will have some great information. My article will have some great information. This way you can hit 2020 and hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
I want to kick this show off with an investment group. And you're like, why would we talk about investment groups? There is a company named Otis, and they own stuff. And you get to buy a piece of their stuff. Now, the stuff I want to talk about specifically is this company owns a Hulk 181 CGC 98 with an evaluation of $35,000 to it. Now, you, as an investor, get to buy a portion of that for $35. So imagine, guys, you don't get to actually physically own this book, but you get to own shares of a book.
Yeah, this is an interesting concept. I want to know the community's gut response to what we're saying and what has actually happened, because this comic book was available to the public and quickly sold out. We now have individuals in the comic book community who own a share of a Hulk 181 graded at 9.8 that has potential to raise in value. And the idea is that these would be looked at as stocks of a collectible asset that could then change hands. The value can fluctuate. Thus, you owning a piece of this Hulk 181 could make you money if you sell long term if the asset increases value.
So there are officially 1,000 shares of this book out in the ether. And this is just one item that this company has put out. They are all about alternative assets and stuff that current culture finds a lot of value in.
Yeah, explain how this works specifically, because this is one company that is owning and purchasing collections.
So Otis has this platform. They have a website. They have a beautiful app. Now, I don't feel like it's fully up and running.
They just started this in July. The app's been running, but as of July, these items started to become available to the market. Hulk 181 at 9.8 was the first that I can tell that was available to the community to invest in.
Which is interesting that they chose a comic book to invest in. So they're really going for things that hit a cultural base right now. So there's going to be shoes you can invest in because people love shoes as a collectible. People love artwork. So just imagine that you have this database on your phone of things that you've invested in. So you wanted, let's say, a Picasso or a Warhol painting. You can't buy that outright. You're never going to own that in your house, but you can literally have an entire folder of your investments of a painting or other artwork, comic books, records, shoes. You name that collectible and they have it to offer, you can be a partial owner. And that's kind of intriguing for a lot of people.
It's brand new, and we're definitely not recommending this right now because this is definitely a conversation. It even says on their website, you know, these are assets, these are high risk. Typically, when you're dealing with like in-hand objects that have value, they typically depreciate, right? So be careful where you put your money. But I thought this was a great topic for discussion because this is brand new. Last couple months this started happening. And I'm trying to think like long term what ramifications this would have, because this right here is reserved for those grails, these books that are so unattainable to a collector that they would want to put money into them and be okay with the fact that they probably will never actually have it in hand, but want to use their portfolio and run it as if they actually own the collection. Can you imagine at a convention where someone's wanting to do a trade across the board or a transaction in general, where I'll give you a couple of my shares of my Batman 1 that I own in place for an actual comic book you have right now, and having that be worth something because on your portfolio you can sell your stocks of your particular asset. This is intriguing. I don't know. I like the idea, but I also can see that there are definite risks involved.
Yeah, you really got to start thinking about how is this going to be regulated and monitored? I mean, who puts the evaluations on these items? Because honestly, the grand scheme is to have your investments grow.
Right.
So how it's going to grow is going to be interesting. How is it going to be traded is also interesting. And can it publicly be traded like at a ShowCon floor, transferred? It's going to be, like you said, I like the concept of it. Practicality, who knows? I'm not looking to jump in early, but I could see this playing out and, being a fun way to say you own a portion of something absolutely amazing.
If you look on YouTube, there's very little people even talking about this app. Not a whole lot of ratings have come in on it. I don't even think you can sell your assets at this point because it's so fresh. But New York Times covered a piece on it, and I thought that the fact that they came out the gate with a comic book and the fact that they are advertising comic books on their website, that this is going to be a place where you can manage a portfolio. It's like, okay, they're in the art game, they're in the comic game. This could be the early adaptation of what future collecting will look like for those who don't have the money to invest in something that has maybe under a print count of 100 even. I'm thinking like those Action 1s. People want to own a piece of Action 1. They may be comfortable putting their money into an Action 1, but they won't have the amount of money they will need to purchase a low-grade copy. So maybe they can get a 20th or a 30th or a 100th of a percentage of a copy and then actually watch that grow in an investment portfolio, much like their 401k would. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you get to invest in something that you like outside of just, a passion of yours, outside of just some kind of digital stock that you just invest in because, your broker told you to do so.
Right. Well, let us know what you think. Would you put money into a digital comic investment? I don't know. I'm like, this is brand new to me, so I'm still thinking about it. Yeah. And there's not like there's any available right now. This is more of a, let's see what happens as this goes on next year. But who knows? A Cap 1 or something equivalent may hit that site. They were aggressive and did a Hulk 181 at 9.8. I bet in order to get more people invested, they're going to have to put something bigger on that app that will get people to pull the trigger and say, you know what? I want a piece of comic history. And I think this has some room to grow in the next couple of years. So heck, I'll give money to essentially a museum to hold my comic, at least my portion.
Until you're investing in Otis, all right, I need you to invest in Key Collector because I'm telling you, man, this is a smart, inexpensive investment for the year, okay, where you can get the top information that you need daily and have everything organized for you. And we just got a key alert on Superman Red Sun.
That's right. A key alert is something that you're going to be receiving from Key Collector. They're sparingly because it's the most pertinent information that collectors need to know for when they're on the hunt or if they're looking to just be up on comic book news and what's going on the market that same day. It's going to be the fastest way to keep up with the moving market. It's going pretty quick. This past week, this is music to my ears, man. I freaking love this key alert that hit the market. We have the Superman Red Sun animated movie trailer went live today. What did you think about it?
I think it's a really interesting story. I mean, I remember reading the trade, and it's been probably 12 years. I think it came out in like 2003.
That's right.
So it's been a long time since I've read it, but it's an interesting concept. I mean, in theory, you have Superman, instead of landing in the United States, lands in the former USSR.
That's right.
So just imagine that. I mean, he's your local American hero, but imagine being in the U.S. and he's no longer an American hero, but a Russian hero.
Yeah, fighting for communism.
Right. So it's just going to be that dichotomy between what you know and then what you're going to be seeing as if it was an Elseworld type concept.
Which that's exactly what this is. And a lot of people are super stoked about the Elseworlds concept as it related to the Joker movie, getting a total retelling, something out of left field. That's what this book is, written by Mark Millar, Dave Johnson, beautifully drawn. And there's this is a painted cover on this one. I freaking love the design of Superman Red Sun. But this book, I cannot recommend enough. It's a short read. We're going to do a giveaway for this book as well today. So if you haven't read it, make sure to comment down below and let us know what you think about this video, or if you're reading anything that you would recommend to the community. We love reading those. And this comic, there's a handful of really fun things outside of the fact that, it's like, what if Clark or, Superman, Kal-El, better way to put it, crash landed 12 hours later, at a different part of the world, and was raised to be a servant to the USSR, to Soviet Russia. And what's fascinating is that this isn't just a propaganda-ridden, like, bizarro Superman tale. No, this is Superman as a hero for another country. It's just very tastefully done. And this is kind of like, I want to almost say, a more thought-provoking Superman. A Superman that is actually smarter to a degree. This is someone who calculates his actions as he's doing them. He's trying to maximize the result of every piece of impact he has on his society because he feels the weight of the entire country on his shoulders. This is similar to a boys situation. If you had Homelander, being raised to serve the community, to serve the world. This is not Homelander. I'm not going to, go into any spoilers for the boys, but this is a Homelander type of situation where Superman is raised as a hero for the Russians. Thus, he takes that responsibility to a new level, a level that even I think Superman as an American wouldn't be able to get to, because all this Red Sun Superman knows is his people and serving his people. He was never a farmer. He wasn't someone who was fallen in love and practicing his journal skills and his article writing for the Daily Planet. No, this is someone, since he had to start his job serving his country.
I like how you surmised that. And I thought it was really interesting in these pages how the U.S. responded by creating their own Superman. So they made a Superman 2, and he doesn't have that S on the chest, but he's got a U.S. on his chest, which is really interesting. And it's also interesting to see how Luthor is in the pages here. He still has his red hair because he loses his red hair back in the Golden Age through Superman.
Yeah, if there's no Superman in America, he keeps his red hair. So it's like an alternate version of not just Superman, multiple characters: Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Batman, and yes, Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. This is a great read. Can't recommend it enough. All you have to do is comment down below, hit a like on this video, and you may win a copy. And we also have 2 winners from last week's giveaway.
Daniel Asher, congratulations. You won a New Mutants print, courtesy of Bill Sienkiewicz and 6 Foot Publishing.
Ooh, that's right. And we also have a winner here. Going out to Ghost Rider. Yeah, we're sending you out Donny Cates' first published work, Ant-Man and the Wasp, issue number 2. And yeah, all you have to do is comment down below, which is a perfect segue to viewer
comments.
All right, so first comment on the list, we have Elephant in the Room, Sahib, and he's saying, in reference to our Dr. Manhattan and his spec sheet about his Manhattan, if you haven't seen the video, click the link. His comment was reviewed by Inspector D. As in, and I didn't even think about this, but in that video, we talked a lot about D, didn't we?
Yeah, we were going through the spec sheet in great details, but this completely went over my head when it says Inspector D, as we're looking on, what this thing is. And it just makes sense what the D stood for. And how we did not comment on that, I have no idea.
But what's also funny is that earlier in the show, we were talking about pedigrees. And what was that pedigree about?
The letter D on the cover.
Yeah, that's right.
Inspected by that D, a different D.
Thanks, Elephant in the Room. We do appreciate that comment. We also have a comment from Hood Rat Comics. His question is fantastic. He says, is HBO's Watchmen canon? Ooh, what do you think about that?
I feel like we've had this question, and it's a great question because I don't think people truly know, because not everyone's reading Watchmen, so they don't know if it's in canon. Does this follow the pages of the comic, or is this just something straight for TV?
I feel like after seeing the response from so many people in the community and seeing that not all of them are 100% on board with how great of a show this is, I feel like people just don't know their Watchmen. I've been saying for years, you got to know your Overstreet. And now I'm saying you got to know your Key Collector app, Well, now I'm actually saying, where's okay? I gotta get Watchmen here. You need to know your Watchmen, comic fam, because I think this is canon. I will associate this series as Watchmen canon for here on out.
I do not know my Watchmen. So you telling me that this has got nothing to do with the comics, okay, is news to me.
No, it does have everything to do with the comics.
But it's not a comic book. It's not based on a comic book.
But it is based on the comic book.
No, this storyline is not based on any comic out there.
That's true, but it's a rendition and a continuation. So, but it is though. I feel like it's more. Okay, how about this? It's more of canon than before Watchmen was. He's thinking.
Wait.
Sid, where do you put before Watchmen on this list?
Before I don't know. I'm
because that's a comic form that people don't consider canon.
Okay, so the published.
I think if we can throw out Watchmen written by DC as a like if we throw that out as canon because it wasn't written by Alan Moore, I think that we can also associate something that isn't comic book as Watchmen canon.
Okay, so if this is picked up in comics, let's say they continue from the show,
sure,
then you can consider this canon. This not being in a comic book and just straight to TV, and this is their rendition, I don't consider this to be canon.
Are we making sense here, comic fam? I don't know. I think that I'm going to, when I think of Watchmen, I look at these characters and I think of them as part of the Watchmen universe more than the Watchmen movie by Zack Snyder.
I mean, look, yeah. All right. Well, I get what you're saying from that. That's your opinion on that. I know.
All right. Let us know in the comment section.
But the Watchmen movie is based on the Watchmen comic, so that is their rendition from a comic.
Yeah, but it's to me such a loose adaptation that this new show was more accurate on that gives its credence and its validation that it is canon. And now I think on the massive scale, people are going to associate this show with more Watchmen canon than anything else that's come out.
But there's nothing to reference the show from. This is them creating some new characters to tie in with some older characters.
I love how he just doesn't understand it. You don't want to agree with me at all. I love it.
Man, I'm gonna just agree to disagree on this one.
I think because there's at least 5% of the show that was straight renditions of the past. They picked up stuff from the Minuteman. Yeah, they added some things, but there were renditions of canon in comic book scenes and enough references to the comic book that they included in this, that to me it counts. It's like, all right, they're showing you the giant squid. To me, that's all I needed. Giant squid's in there. The rest, for me in my head, it's all canon now.
I need more.
You need more. I want there to be more too. So you're saying if they make... I did it. All right. If it hit him before we started the show, it hit him in the face with the microphone. I just did it here because you talk about the giant squid, dude. It's awesome.
That's Mike Karma right there.
It is Mike Karma. But what I do think is that if they make one comic book, which they probably will, that is going to be associated with this new series, because that's what they were really hoping for, is probably to start the franchise again. Are you then saying that this show is retroactively canon?
This is TV canon. How about that?
But what happens if they make a comic book? Is that
then it's full canon?
But it's never. It's the same thing.
No, I think comic publishing. I think they're trying to make a good show for TV. Okay. It's not publishing comics. So hence, it's not in canon. It's a TV rendition of a comic.
Okay,
book.
this is. I got to know from the community. You got to help us here because we're not going to agree here. We're going to have to agree to disagree.
Like if they made a cartoon about any other superhero and they threw in some stuff just to throw it in, is that considered canon with the comic books?
It depends. It just completely depends on the situation. This has never been done before. That's why the question is valid. But
it is valid, Hood Rat.
It is. It's a good question. Sal Felix. This is another really fun question. How about a Golden Age Guru exclusive art print in a future mail call? So first off, a lot of people may not know that the Guru is an artist and you were actually trained in school for art and you did some like cartooning.
Yeah, I did. I went to school for commercial illustration, and then I went down to the Hollywood area around 2000, 2001, and did a lot of storyboarding down there. Nothing really big. I didn't know anybody, so it's just me trying to work through it. But I definitely have a lot of experience drawing, and I love drawing, and this has kind of inspired me, man. I really appreciate it, Sal. So what I'll do is I'll put something together. Let's do something for the mail call.
So we all know about Kevin Esslinger over at kevinesslinger.com. He is the very talented artist. And if you haven't seen the print that's going out in January to every single mystery mail call member, the link is in the description below. Reserve your copy of Donny Cates' Inhyuk Lee variant of Thor #1, the Comic Tom exclusive, by the way. Well, Kevin, I don't even know how he did this, man. This thing is amazing.
Dude's constantly crushing it, man. I love his work, dude. He does such a good job.
Jaw-dropping every time. He's sending out a null to every single member, and this thing is gorgeous. Well, we don't just feature his print in every single box. We also have a newsletter that, you open the box. It's our communication to you, some updates, and tells you some instructions. There's a lot of new members. It welcomes the new members. But on the back, because it's blank, we try to feature an independent artist in the community. We do it every single month. And this month, we're going to feature Sketchbooks, who is a awesome artist right on Instagram. And he's pumping out some really cool covers, and he's hustling. And I like to, spread that love. We're going to include him on the back of the newsletter, and everyone's going to get this awesome Miles Morales print in addition to everything else in the box. But I like the idea of featuring you maybe in the next couple months.
Gives me some time to figure out what I'm going to put out there for you guys. If you have any comments of what you want to see, which I feel is going to be kind of overwhelming now that I said that, go ahead and put it down.
I want to see you draw Dr. Manhattan. No, but also, while we're on that same note, if you're an artist or if you want to, send some love to maybe one of your favorite artists, hit up the ComicTom101.com in the Contact Us section. There's an artist submission page. And we take donations for the art. We cover the cost to get them printed, and we just include it in our mail call, hoping that it brings you or a potential artist some new followers, some comic book enthusiasts who potentially may like your art. Any way we can help the community, we try to do it. And then last comment that we have to discuss, because this is freaking crazy, man. It's from Opus Garza. I think he just came up with a really good idea.
Yeah, I have this odor of smoke in my car.
Yeah, and it's layered with black ice, as we found out.
Yeah, layered with the tree, black ice tree that's hanging from my
I went and got one in the meantime. I'm like, I got to put that in my car now after watching that playback. I was so proud of us. I'm like, yo, I mentioned black ice, and your reaction was so authentic. You're like, as if I snuck out there and knew somehow that he put black ice in your car after they stole your car.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Jim Mint rolls with black ice, by the way, too.
Does he really?
Yeah, he commented.
What is going on?
He's like, dude? I got black ice because it mentions my black on black interior of my SUV. I was like,
what a pimp, dude. I love that guy.
Right?
Steven, shout out. But what does Opus Garza suggest you to do to get rid of this cigarette smoke from the thieves who stole your car and then cleaned it and gave it back after smoking in it?
I need to take a shoebox, apparently, of charcoal, okay, like charcoal briquettes that you buy at a store, and leave it in my vehicle because apparently it's going to absorb the smell. And a few people made this comment. So I haven't done it yet, but I will go get some charcoal, and I will absolutely try this because this smell is still there. And I'll keep you updated.
I'm also curious too, because I've never tried this. If this works in your car, I bet it would work for comics. You get like a Tupperware, put the comic that may have some smoke damage, and put charcoal around it, seal it up. Maybe the charcoal will suck that out. If you've ever tried that, comic fam, let us know in the comment section below. It could be a good idea. I've never looked into it. I've also haven't dealt with a whole lot of smoke before.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather my comics smell like mesquite barbecue than smoke.
Sweet baby rays, man. These next comics sold for crazy amounts of money. We're talking about 2019 art and comic sales that were so staggering that we had to put it together in a list of 10 to provide them to you right now. Guru, what's the first on this list?
I'm going to start off with the #1 selling comic of the year, which is a Marvel Comics #1.
That's right. We had a sale. The highest selling of a Marvel comic book broke record this year, $1.26 million.
That's a huge number. And this is a great book because it was Ossa pedigree. It was a CGC 9.4 Windy City pedigree, which is a pretty prolific collection. This person who put it together bought only #1 issues.
Yeah, that's right. He was a mail carrier, and it was one of those things. Like, we're all kind of like this in the community a little bit. You see that #1 and you're like, should I grab one or two or any? Like, you just kind of feel like, hey, it's a #1. That's the one, right? Like, if there's going to be a guessing game of what to grab, that's typically the one. Well, that someone was doing that in 1940, and it was a mail carrier, and he did that with this comic.
This guy was the true speculator right here. I tell you that, because he started in 1937.
Oh my gosh,
as early, but he didn't get an Action 1.
Yeah, who would have thought, though? Like, he got the Marvel one, so at least he got one of them. And it's also mentioned that it's known that this comic's only traded a handful of hands over the years. So very scarce, and it's cool that it was preserved over this amount of time. And then the next one on this list is Batman 8.0, issue #1.
This is obviously an amazing book already. I mean, you have the first appearance of Joker, first appearance of Catwoman, and this book sold for $498,000.
Now, you're well versed in Batman 1. I know you own one. What are your thoughts about this sale? Almost $500,000 for an 8.0.
I think that's about where this book is. It's not, I don't think it's undersold. I don't think it's over. I think that's just about right for this number. These are not going to be in any particular order, this list. We're just going to be talking about some cool sales here.
Ooh,
right?
Good reminder. Yeah, no particular order. These are just the ones that caught our eye. But let's tell them about this Superman #1 at 4.5.
So the 4.5 sold for $336,000 this year.
And that's really high.
Right, that's a high number. That book is always going to sell more than Batman 1 right now. And, you know, there's still, like, people debating why, considering that Superman 1 did come out a year earlier, but it also only reprints stories. So it doesn't really, you know, you have the first Joker, first Catwoman. Why does it sell for so much more? It just does.
Well, it doesn't just sell for so much more, but that 0.5, that change up, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, we're going up from 4.5 to 5.0, and we saw over $120,000 difference in price. It was $456,000 for this 5.0.
That's crazy. That's insane. 6-figure difference for half a point. I got to see this book. I wasn't able to look at to see if like the eye appeal was drastically different, but I can't imagine it. I mean, 0.5 is so subjective at that point. Man, like that's just crazy gains in such a short amount of time. We're talking about a difference of 3 months.
I realize it's just a 0.5 difference, but when you're talking about grails like this, there's going to be a fluctuation in some number pricing or percentage-wise. You just never know how much more it's going to be just for half a point, let alone, you know, even a point. Like, can you imagine? But I want to talk about this next book because we're discussing Superman. So let's talk about Action Comics 1. We did have a sale this year. It was a restored CGC 8.5. Okay, and that even as a restored copy, this book is going to see large numbers. And we saw this one sell for $314,000.
Now, seeing an 8.5, something that's almost near mint, go for under $500,000 for like the most wanted grail in the world, it seems low to me, but you don't think so?
I don't think it's low because we got to think about this restored market.
Sure.
When I look at restored books, I'm not a big fan because I just watch technology. I see what they can do with books and how they can restore them to these amazingly high grades. So basically, you could take any portion of a book, completely rebuild it, and have yourself some massively high grade copy. So I don't feel like it's that scarce. You're almost buying this book at its bare bones minimum and paying to have some work done to it. So you almost have to judge it on that. And the books are just not going to reach landmark numbers. I mean, if this was an 8.5, all right, unrestored, I mean, this book is probably a $1.5+ million book. I mean, so that's the difference here. I look at restored and it scares me. I don't ever want to invest in a restored book, especially if it's going to have something like trimming, paper cleaned, staples replaced, maybe. But there's just certain things that they do to restored books that you just have to stay away from.
When you're dealing with that expensive of comic books, the services, they're endless that you can pay for. You can get entire pages redone when you're dealing with a book that's a freaking $1 million. Like, and it'll be worth doing to a degree. So, you know, if you're trying to find the right buyer who wants it completed, even if it is going to be coming back at that purple label. I find it interesting. I also find it interesting that the next one on this list, we're going to have to give you another like bonus comic here to chat about. We're talking about Cap 1, but we have 2 different copies that sold. And I think these are low. And I want to hear your thoughts on it. We had a Cap 1 at 9.4 sell. For how much?
We saw several Cap 1s sell this year. Okay, this was the highest selling copy. I thought this book was going to break 1 million. I really did. This 9.4 San Francisco copy, which is a beautiful pedigree, by the way, sold for $915,000.
Now, it didn't break 1 million, and that was what was surprising to me. Seeing a near mint Cap 1 in this market, I feel like it's $1 million book at least. But then take a look at this one. Cap 1 at 7.0 sold earlier this year. Now, granted, couple points lower, but still 7.0. It's a Cap 1. Jack Kirby. Are you kidding me? $228,000. It seems low.
When you hear that number and you think about it, it does seem low, but I've seen 7.0, 7.5, and this is where it is. Like, I've seen people trying to push the market with this book, but it seems to be very stagnant right now and stuck.
All right, number 5 on this list, we did have some crazy comic sales, but the original art market saw some records this year. Let's chat about the $5.4 million sale.
When you hear a number like that, there's only very few artists that are going to get you that type of dollar. And really, Frank Frazetta is the only one that jumps to the top of my head right now.
And that's what we're talking about.
And that's exactly who we're discussing. His Egyptian queen painting, which is an absolute classic for him, hit that $5.4 million number. And like, he's a comic artist, but he's also such a fine artist that he crosses over into that realm of different collectors.
That's right. When we see art in the comic market cross over to just like mainstream fine art sales, that's when these numbers start getting just crazy expensive. Here's another one I wanted to throw on here. I sold for a lot less. We're talking $600,000, a mere $500,000. We're talking about Neil Adams, Batman 251, the classic Joker cover.
$600K is not a surprise for this cover. I mean, this is Neil Adams at some of his best. Classic Joker cover.
Did you see it at New York when it was there? They had
did.
it on display. It was cool to see it in person, man. I'm glad I got to see it before it gets probably put in a damn museum or someone's PC.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing piece. Congratulations to Sal Ryer, and I didn't get a chance to own it, so I never will. So maybe I can buy a piece of it through Otis one day.
Maybe Otis will acquire it. All right, well, that was number 4 on the list. Let's chat about number 3 right now. We have Wiz number 1. This is classic. It's super scarce. It's one of those grails for a lot of people. And a 6.0 sold for $150,000. And I think Shazam is one of those golden age heroes that people were really hoping would land with the public. And I think it did this year.
Yeah, I mean, we have the first appearance of Captain Marvel with this book, just so you understand the weight of what it is.
Yeah, Fawcett, let's do it.
Yeah, and $150,000, I mean, I don't know if that's a bad price, to be honest. I think that's a pretty low number for what could possibly be the future of this character and the expansion of it. Like a 6.0, I haven't seen that book come out in that grade. I can't even tell you how many years.
No kidding. What about this next one on the list? Number 2, we have Phantom Lady issue number 17. I was excited to see you include a Matt Baker cover on this list. It went at a 9.4 grade. $121,000. What the hell is going on with this book?
Yeah, Baker did the cover art to this, all right? And it's a classic cover used in The Seduction of the Innocent. And Fox Publications is the one who did this. And I like Fox Publications. I did actually talk about them in my article, by the way. So stay tuned for that, because I do feel they have a lot of great books in their lineup. And for this one to go for $121,000 at 9.4, kind of a high number. Initially, my gut wants to say, but it's such a classic cover and character that I'm not surprised.
Yeah, there's like certain collectors out there that are waiting for these high grade good girl covers to hit the market. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts more about the romance golden age genre here in a little bit on this show later on. But not before we chat about number 1, the last one on this list. Again, in no particular order. We have Sensation Comics, number 1, 8.5, selling for a staggering $132,000. What's going on?
This is one of her best covers, I have to tell you, especially in the beginning. So this is one of the earliest appearances of Wonder Woman, all right? And it sold for $132,000 as an 8.5. It's not her first appearance, but it's a great cover, an amazing book. Not surprised the number whatsoever.
You know, and I've been told that All-Star Comics 8, her first appearance, given that it was kind of a layered appearance in the pages, not on the cover, that is one that doesn't sell as aggressively. It may be worth more, but not as aggressive as other appearances. Is that true?
I feel that is true. I don't see this book selling for the numbers like a Wiz 1, okay, or a Superman 1 or a Batman 1. It just doesn't approach those numbers whatsoever, and it's got to be because of the cover. You know, you look at you have Captain Marvel on a Wiz 1. You have Superman 1, Superman on a Superman 1. You have Batman on a Batman 1. You don't have that cover. It's
kind of a testament to the quality and importance of what goes on that first page.
Yeah, it absolutely helps the value of a book, period.
We want to know your thoughts, comic fam. Let us know in the comments section below. What was your favorite comic on this list? Did any of these sales surprise you? More or less, you know, I was surprised. It'll enter you to win not just the Red Sun giveaway that we're doing today. We have a Strike Force issue number 1 variant Blade looking so dope on the cover with his sword. It'll enter you to win that as well. And let's chat about something I am very frustrated about, Jeff. I'm really mad. I'm pissed. What's going on with the Flash, dude?
I stuck this in our Google Drive to discuss because the instant I saw this online, I got freaking annoyed. And I tell you why I got annoyed. DCU, DCEU, DC, whatever the hell they're calling it.
You don't even care at this point.
I don't really care at
You're
this
like,
point.
it doesn't even matter.
I'm so frustrated that I have to wait till 2022, it says, to catch a Flash movie.
Yeah, what's going on, dude? They can't do a Superman movie. They can't figure out a Batman movie, or at least one that's current and not an Elseworld storyline. And now they can't figure out a Flash movie till 2022. Dude, JLA was like 2 years ago.
They can focus and make another Suicide Squad 2 for some freaking goddamn reason that nobody cares. Okay? We can keep talking about Snyder cuts until we're freaking blue in the face.
Birds of Prey is getting a movie before Flash.
Birds of Prey is getting a movie before Flash. I mean, like, you had Justice League in 2017. You're trying to establish a universe. You took that Aquaman. You took that Wonder Woman. I think they're taking the Flash. Okay? Why are we waiting till 2022? What are we talking about? 5-ish plus years later to see a Flash movie, but we can see all that other garbage first? Like, it's so ridiculous. I'm like, I can't believe how they're prioritizing these other garbage movies and characters.
Crazy.
And they're not going to have a Flash movie until 2022.
Dude, this Flash. This is a big hero. This is a hero that has a very successful show franchise on television. The viewers will come no matter what. And we're talking like Superman level responsibility here. Just put a Flash movie out. People are going to watch it. I find it surprising that Aquaman is like on pace for 2 movies before Flash gets 1. Like, how does that happen?
I have no idea. It's because they're not prioritizing right. They're just not doing things correctly. Okay? And like, look, 2021,
it's a long time, dude.
2022, really?
Can you imagine if like Thanos and like imagine like back when we saw Thanos way back when in Avengers, and then they're like, yeah, but we're not going to do anything at all really to feed into this narrative for 4 years for this character. Like, at least we got a little bit over time. Right now, it's like we're not going to get anything. We'd be lucky to get anything.
I mean, I hope maybe there's something in the other movies to build up. But if you're telling me it's not coming out to 2022, that means you have put no effort whatsoever.
Well, think of the appearances that these characters have even had as it is. Like, they were barely in the movie. Every time they put out a movie featuring characters, it's like, it would be nice if we had more screen time for literally anybody, more of a character focus, more screen time every single time. Unless they get their own movie, it's never enough. I mean, you have Zack Snyder saying, yo, I was going to put Martian Manhunter in the Snyder cut. I was going to put it in like the original movie. And people are like, yeah, that would be really cool, but we really don't care because we lost interest in the amount of characters you introduce until you actually use them. Utilize the characters in a way that get people excited. They did it for Wonder Woman. They did it for Aquaman. They're still trying to figure out how to do it for Superman. Batman, they just abandoned and started their own franchise. Joker, they're like, you know what? We give it up. We're just going to give him his own movie franchise, pretend like the whole Batman universe doesn't even exist. And now Flash, we'll put that on deck in 2 years with Cyborg. It's just never going to happen.
Yeah, you're kind of depressing me even more, and I was already pretty down. So,
all right, let's pick it up. We're not done yet, Comic Fam. We're going to chat about some subscriber benefits. We're going to uplift everybody and tell them some value that they can have.
As you can tell, we're getting towards the end of the season here, and that usually means lots of sales at comic shops. So if you're going to be out there hunting for books, and really just hunting in the beginning of the year because you're going to be ramping up for cons, and you just be out and about. Who knows what you're going to come across?
Yeah, it gets really slow around this time of year. There's a lot of bins filling up as year end comes.
So you got to kind of think about not only the books that you are aware of and the common keys, but there's those errors that you don't really know about. And I don't really know about many books that have errors, and there are quite a few, but not all of them have a lot of value.
But some do. And these are ones that you just have to know. Like, you have to know the cover or know how to access the information. And we're going to discuss 5 valuable error comics that I believe are out there right now for you to hunt. And if you are interested in diving deeper into the error comics, just the vastness of all that exists, well, we got to recommend the valuable errors category on Key Collector right on the home page. This is one of the subscriber benefits for having the full subscription of the app, and you can use code Tom101 to get a free week subscription. The first one I want to talk about is Return of Wolverine issue number 1. This comic book saw its ebbs and flows this past year. We saw highs of above $40 out the gate when this error was uncovered, but now we're seeing about a high of $20, but I still think this comic is out there. What's going on with this book?
This is just a little over a year old. It came out in October 2018. All right, this is the variant second printing.
That's right. You have to know it's a second print of this book. But how do you know this is an error? Because not all of them had the error, and it wasn't recalled.
No, you're going to have to actually open it up because pages 2 and 3 and 38 and 39 are actually interiors to a Star Wars book.
Yeah, by mistake was included. Now, another one I want to chat about is Witches number 4. This is a recalled Canadian variant. This is going to be a shout out to all my homies out in Washington and, Michigan, different states that border that Canadian border, because some of these variants made it out there. But I mention it because, we were chatting last week about Witches number 1, seeing some spikes in the market after Michael B. Jordan was seen purchasing, or rather his crew was seen purchasing comics from comic book stores. Maybe he's interested in optioning this title. But this issue number 4 had the wrong number on it. It said number 3. So if you find an issue 4 cover that has number 3 on it, it's likely the Canadian variant that was recalled. This book's seeing some crazy gains, and I bet if you hunt it in long boxes along this border I'm talking about, you may find it.
Not only was it limited to 1,000 copies, but it's also fetching a price of $245 right now.
Yeah, or more. And I'm excited to see what's going on with Witches in this potential option news that it's been brought to. What do we got at number 3 on this list?
This is Walking Dead 35. This is actually a really rare issue with the error being on the interior. The last 2 pages are printed twice. And we're seeing values of this book at $450.
Since Walking Dead ended this year, I'm thinking people are looking at places to invest in. And it's going to be first, obviously, the key issues. Then you're looking at those scarcer, maybe convention exclusives. But you're also looking for those scarce error copies because of how low print they were. And I think these are ones that are out there. They've been looked for. But you know what? I would be lying to you to tell you that I run across issue 35s and don't look inside. Every time there's a 35 that's presented, I'm looking for the error. You never know.
I had no clue about the Walking Dead 35. They've come across my path many times. I am not good at the error market whatsoever of knowing what's there, so I'm really glad they can all be in one location for me. But another book I want to discuss here is Universe X Spidey number 1 variant. This is done by Alex Ross. Okay, it's a recalled book because Al Milgrom put in the pages dissing the Marvel editor-in-chief and calling him something along the lines of nasty son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's something that was snuck in there. And if you don't know to look for it, you got to go to that page with the bookshelf and you can make out that there's something written there. And then they reprinted it and they changed it and kind of blurred it out. But that book sees some staggering numbers when it hits the market, doesn't it?
We're seeing highs of this book at around $250.
That's right. You get lucky if that one bookshelf says some text on there and you'll be able to read it clear as day. You'll know this book well. Okay, so last on this list came out literally a year ago this week. We're talking Winter Soldier issue number 1. If you would remember that last year when this comic book came out, it came out with 12 pages of Venom included inside, by mistake. So if you open this up, you're going to be able to quickly figure out if this is the error copy. But this book is still selling aggressively for above $50 on the aftermarket. Some of these errors are worth money, but other times they shoot up unexpectedly more than others. That's why you have to be up on all of them. Error comics, you gotta know them. You gotta know the inside of them because the covers themselves are not gonna be the only indicator of whether or not these have the error included. You gotta take the work, open the bag, check it out. And these 5 comics, they're not the only ones you need to know. You need to go check your Key Collector app, go check out the valuable errors section after you sign up for the service, and I recommend you use code TOM101 to get a free week to try it out, but also to support the show. Look for that subscriber benefits button. You click that, you put the code in, and then you're going to enhance your collecting, support the show, and you'll have access to this full list of error comics you just got to know. Let's chat about the next section here because we're going to give you a little bit of an advance because the Overstreet price guide for 2020 isn't out until next July. But we do have a couple advisors. One of them is right here. And you already wrote an essay. Maybe let's back it up and explain what's going on.
So Overstreet advisors are a group of people in the price guide who discuss what happened in the marketplace and what's going to happen in the marketplace. Okay, we apply for this position. Okay, we want to be that voice so you guys know and give yourselves a direction of where to go.
How long have you been doing it for?
I'd say this is probably like my 7th year, I guess.
And you focus on Golden Age comics, so that's really what you provide, is a little bit of a record for that year, in your opinion, kind of like the year-end roundup. How did the Golden Age genre do?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I just submitted my article literally the other day, so it's fresh here. We got it. I'm going to give it to you now so you don't have to wait 6 months, and hopefully that helps you in your hunt sooner than others.
Ooh, let's get into it, because you're going to have some examples, some things that they should find and keep an eye out for. And if there's some new Golden Age collectors, I'm sure you're going to fill them in on places they can kind of get their feet wet. What was 2019? Sum it up. What's going on in the Golden Age of comics? And hit the like button, comic fam. This is advanced info. You can't find this anywhere.
I start off my article with a couple shout-outs. All right, and these are books that we actually touched on already, but it was the Marvel Comics #1, all right, that hit 1.26 million. First Marvel Golden Age book to break 1 million. And then Captain America #1 that we mentioned, which sold for 915,000.
That's right.
Okay, and I have no problem mentioning these books again because those are 2 big numbers. I also roll into the conversation of how strong the market was this last year and my expectations for it to be strong again next year. We saw $40 million in sales of CGC graded books alone across all auction houses and eBay. Now, can you imagine how many sales of non-CGC books there were, convention sales of raw books, eBay raw book sales, privately traded books and sold? I mean, I have to guesstimate that there had to be $80 to $90 million worth of sales in Golden Age alone.
It's crazy to think that just Golden Age as a genre could potentially be exceeding $100 million in sales annually.
Now, the usual suspects for sales for me this year were Captain America comics, Marvel Mystery Comics, Action Comics, Detective Comics, the usual suspects every year. And again, that'll be the same next year. If you want to get in collecting and want to do it kind of affordably as possible, and this is for the heart of the Golden Age, I do have a subset of it for me and a lot of collectors. We call a section of the Golden Age from like around 1947-48 to 1955, the Atomic Age, and we'll get into that shortly. But for the early part of the Golden Age there, I recommend jumping into Fawcett Comics, Quality Comics, Fox Feature Publications. These are all publishers that put out really good work with a wide variety of genres, and you can get into Captain Marvel books in general.
So I'm assuming that Captain Marvel, Shazam, has been uplifted in this community post this movie that landed. Are you seeing that in the Golden Age era of comics?
Absolutely. I had a good year in sales of that book. I see it continuously increase. But he crosses over on so many titles: Captain Marvel Adventures, Captain Marvel Jr.,
Family.
Yeah, Marvel Family. So you can find something of his and really just get in because it's good artwork, good stories.
It's affordable. A lot of these were printed in mass and they're available, so the scarcity isn't as aggressive when you're looking at, lower grade copies.
You also have like quality publications who put out things such as Black Hawk, Modern Comics, Police Comics. They have great artwork in them. You did Fox Feature, like I mentioned. You can have like the variety of genres there, from romance to superhero, and they have a great lineup as well. So when you're mentioning Matt Baker and romance, that's going to drag us into that Atomic Age that I mentioned. That's like the twin of the Golden Age that's born maybe 2 minutes later. All right, he's not like the twin. He's a little edgier.
He's a little more badass.
A little more BA. Still has that swagger. Okay, like the twin, but just different.
Sure.
Okay. And so that's what this brings, a little bit more extreme to it. And this is where we're seeing more risque covers with romance covers. You're seeing violent covers with horror and crime, cool sci-fi covers. And when you would talk about Matt Baker, he was extremely strong in 2018 and beginning 2019, but I saw a severe plateauing of his sales because the spike was so grand. I mean, we were seeing 5 times guide plus of sales of his books like instantly. So I've seen it relax some, which is great because now you can get in and win through its spike. And now whatever you're buying it for is what market really is. But I do see it in higher grade. If you can find like authentic police cases or wartime romance, that type of stuff, and 7.0s plus, right now I still think it's at an affordable price range.
affordable price range as well as a recognizable artist for a lot of these romance covers. I think that has to do with it too, because some of these Golden Age covers, they're really busy and some people find it hard to even tell them apart. But some of them, like Matt Baker, it is easy to tell apart. I'm assuming like an LB Cole would be on that same list.
Yeah, LB Cole, obviously, oh my gosh, if you don't know LB Cole, and we've talked about him many times, you put an LB Cole by another comic, you will see the difference. His color work is so extreme.
Yeah, his shapes, they're unlike any other.
Not even extreme. Yeah, right. His color work is so, there's so much contrast to it, when you're looking at an LB Cole.
Absolutely.
And so his horror and sci-fi stuff's great. And there was a big uptick on him, but it wasn't so severe that his work still continues to go up in value right now to this year in 2019 as we discussed this, and I expect it again in 2020. And then back with the romance stuff really quick, because Matt Baker is bringing so much attention to romance, I'm seeing all romance across the board raising in value, including photo covers even. Like high-grade photo covers are going for great numbers. There's so much demand in romance in general. So if you're going to get into romance, just get into romance. Get in cheap. Low grade is fine. All right, if you just want to get going, just do that. Get low-grade Atomic Age stuff. It's all pretty affordable, unless it's a key book.
I appreciate you going over some of the things that people could, enter in on the gold section, on the Atomic Age section. I'm curious, what's your thoughts on horror and crime right now?
Crime and horror are fantastic. Okay, I mean, they're steady. I find when I'm out there that most people are drawn to that are collectors. Okay, so it's very strong market for this year and again next year, as I've mentioned. And again, the more violent, the more collectible it is. And I just think that we're not going to see a slowdown for this for at least 3-4 years. I mean, and maybe more. So it's really hard to predict past that. But boy, the way it's going and the amount of people asking me for books like on a daily basis,
wow,
the
you
same
think
ones.
It's still young. You think that it's still on the rise and it's going to maintain that.
Especially crime.
No kidding.
And war. Like I mentioned, the Flamethrower war covers. I mean, that's a whole nother subset of this collectible.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you sharing your opinion about how this last year went as it pertains to this very coveted genre of comic book collecting. I'm just going to throw this out there. One last question for you. And if you have any questions for the guru, please put them in the comment section below. We love to read your comments and love to hear your thoughts. I just want to know, like, biggest surprises, convention floor, just anything in general that just like made you stop and go, dang, yeah, that's new.
Yeah, I would say, actually, even before I get to that, I want to mention, get into war comics. I just mentioned war, and that has got some great covers. Atlas War books. I mean, you can't go wrong. You can get those for a super affordable price. Great stories, great covers. So that's another great way to get in. But
yeah, dude, Jack Davis, dude, Two-Fisted Tales, they're affordable and they're awesome. And some of those actually hold their value quite well. And they're creeping up, but they're still like so cheap to play, man. You can get some low-grade copies for under $100.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the surprise, I would say is that I'm seeing more pedigree books. Like they have this new label, which I think is smart for them because I think it's supposed to help.
CGC?
Yeah, CGC has these new labels for pedigree books. It's a black label. Okay, and I think they're doing that because there's been a slowdown in, I think, the value of these peds. I don't think they're getting with the numbers that they used to.
Okay.
And maybe because you can't differentiate the label. So I think putting a new label is going to bring more attention to the book and realize, oh, actually, this book is not just a high-grade copy. It's a high-grade copy with a history behind it. So I've seen this year a steep decline in the multiples that pedigrees used to obtain when when they had that history to them.
But they're so expensive, and a lot of these stories haven't really been publicized as much as I think they would need to be to warrant the amount of inflation that some of these may deserve, that I think we have to do some more reporting going into the new year. Let's watch the pedigree market.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's really smart to getting into it earlier than later, especially as this label changes and people start migrating their collections and getting the new fancy black tuxedo-like label.
What do you think about our new Comic Tom exclusive? We just dropped the news last week. Thor #1, Donny Cates, and Hyuk Lee variant.
I'm digging it, man. I mean, I love how it's all white, and then you got the two superheroes in bright colors, so it really just pops and stands out. I'm excited, man. A ComicTom101 variant of Marvel with the #1 issue with the Donny Cates behind it. It's pretty dope, man.
Link in the bio to join the community. We're sending out one to every single members while supplies last. We're probably going to be selling out. And we do appreciate every single member of this community. I want to remind you that this conversation is going to continue on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. The camera shut off, but the mics, they keep it going. And we are going to be chatting about some fun stuff. I bet you didn't know that. Well, I bet you would assume that the guru played some sports when he was younger, but I bet you didn't know that I did. I actually used to be a pretty big sports ball fan myself.
Yeah, I'm also going to talk about how you jinxed my fantasy football league.
All right. Well, if you want to hear this continuation, go follow us on those audio platforms where we continue this conversation. Big shout out to Key Collector Comics. Use that code Tom101 to support the show and enhance your collecting. And as always,
be merry and geek responsibly.
Ooh, enough said.